Pour yourself a fresh cup of awakening with Coffee with Wally, the podcast that brews enlightening discussions with a grind of the past and future. Join host and seasoned broadcast journalist Wally Wood of the Wood News Group and co-host Andy Valudes, the marine marketer and master strategist from Marketing Dynamics, as they explore the past, present, and future. Dive into a world where technology and globalization intersect with prophecy. Each week, Coffee with Wally links ancient and recent history to tomorrow, making sense of today's rapid changes through the lens of Revelation 13. Don't miss any episode. Visit coffeewithwally.com and subscribe for your weekly espresso of insight. Coffee with Wally, a fresh cup of awakening, awaits you. Coffee with Wally, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine.
All right, we're back. My name is Andy Valudes. I'm your co-host of Coffee with Wally. Here with your host, Wally Wood. Hey, Wally, how you doing today?
Good morning, Andy and the world. Hello, everybody.
And we're still having we're still having too much fun doing this. You know what I'm saying? So we got an awesome guest again. I don't know how we do that. We keep finding these gems in the kingdom and doing remarkable works. And our next guest you're going to introduce, and we're going to banter back and forth.
Well, this is what we're all about. As most of my regular viewers know, I've been focusing on world news from a prophetic biblical perspective for 50 years. But we decided to take a little bit more of a lighter road with these broadcasts, these podcasts, and Zoom broadcasts, and interview people who have made their mark in the world as hard believers. And that's been our general theme since we started this, is becoming a hard believer. For those of you who may not know, you can find my TV channel at youtube.com/RevFileTV. That's REV for Revelation, File TV. And we got over 200 episodes listed there. And you can find there my two episodes on becoming a hard believer. And there I share my testimony and other matters on that. Today we are pleased to be Crystal Lee Laramore. From what I understand, she strongly prefers the Lee portion of the name. She's a founder and executive director of Wheelchairs for Warriors. The mission of this ministry, if you will, is to provide custom-fit mobility solutions to ensure veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty that they rejoin their lives at the highest level possible with independent mobility and function, and that they roll strong. This was founded in 2016, as I recall, by Crystal. Wheelchair for Warriors serves U.S. veterans and first responders across the nation. You can reach her. Their website, write this down, is Wheelchairs for Warriors, all one word, wheelchairsforwarriors.org, O-R-G. Her phone number is 936-777-4548. 936-777-4548. You can even email her, and she puts her email right out there for everybody to respond to. Crystal, that's Crystal, at wheelchairsforwarriors.org. Andy, you have a little bit more background on her real quick before we bring her in. What do you know?
Get started. We have our Coffee with Wally cup, and she's got a cup on her end. It's what has it got on it? Woo! Marine Corps, Eagle, Globe, and Acre. Yeah, so Crystal and I have been friends for a long time, and you know she comes with a lot of power in a small package. But she has done some amazing things in marketing and social media prior to Wheelchairs for Warriors. Also served our government in the State Department, and she'll give a brief on that. But when she started Wheelchairs for Warriors, I don't know if I was around then. I remember hearing about it on Doc Green's radio show that we both have been on before, the amazing Doc Green. And so we become friends through, I think, that radio show even. And you know, I'm glad that she was able to be on this call today with us today.
Yes. Crystal, welcome to Coffee with Wally.
Thank you very much. I'm so grateful to be here.
Yes. You have quite a colored background, and you still look very young. You don't look as old as Andy and I do.
That's very sweet. Very sweet.
Where do we begin? I don't want to start necessarily right now with Wheelchairs for Warriors. That's the climax of the show. But you spent some time working with the State Department, I understand, right?
I did.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I'm a daughter of the American Revolution, and everyone in my family has served in every conflict that America has had.
Wow.
And my father was a 101st Airborne. He was a medic in the 101st Airborne. My uncle retired as a full board colonel. My aunt helped stand up Space Force. We have a whole lot of red, white, and blue blood running around in this family in our veins.
Wow.
And I was the firstborn son,
That's why they
and
named you Crystal, huh?
that's right. And Lee, after my father, Nolan Lee Laramore, so Crystal Lee Laramore. And being the firstborn son, it was my duty to join the military. And so the Navy is what we landed on. And I had gone to the recruiter's office and had discussed that we had a path. I was going to join officer candidate school, and the whole path was laid out. And I was on the buddy program with a girlfriend. Now, her father, she was Latina, and she was a little bit more wild than I was, and her father had said, "You will go into the military." So she was going into the Navy. So we were on the buddy program, and when we went up there together and they were talking to us, I was almost hyperventilating, and I was like, I can't do it. And she looked at me and she was like, I said, "My dad's not here, yours is. I'm not doing it." And I just didn't do it. And we're still friends. It's surprising that she still talks to me. I mean, I've even visited her in Virginia and seen, where she worked. And of course, like a lot of people in the military, she retired and then kept doing her same job as a contractor. And I did not regret not joining the Navy. But I did have the regret of not serving my country in some capacity.
Okay.
That was really the regret. And it was just like a little, monkey on my back kind of thing. And when the opportunity came to go to Baghdad, I got a phone call and I was like, and I owned a restaurant at the time, and I just said, "No, I'm not going to go to Baghdad and do what? No, I'm not going to Baghdad." Well, they need help for this and that. And it was like KBR needed help in the kitchen. And I thought, I'm going to stir vats of gravy wearing a hairnet in a war zone? That does not sound appealing to me. No, I have full autonomy here. The answer is no. But I told a couple of friends about the opportunity. One of those friends went over there and became the construction manager of the Green Zone. And the State Department was saying to him, "Please, for the love of all things holy, find us someone who can talk to dignitaries, who has all of their teeth, who can string together two sentences and knows more than two-syllable words. Please, we are desperate. We need someone." And he goes, "I have just the gal." And he was a world away, and his wife decided to have a homecoming party for him at my restaurant. And so he walks in and he's like on the other side of my bar, and he said, "I know you, Laramore, and I know you've always, had this thing about you wished you had served your country. And I'm telling you right now, here's your shot. You need to be over there with me." And I shook my head no while my heart was beating out of my chest. And I knew that my heart was betraying me physically. I knew that he could see it. I knew he could smell it, like he could smell the adrenaline. And he just kept grinning and he said, "You won't work for KBR. You won't be in a kitchen stirring vats of gravy wearing a hairnet. The State Department needs someone. Laramore, this is your chance." And I could have passed out. I was so nervous. I knew that I was going. So I called my dad and I said, "Well, I have this great opportunity." And he said, "All right, well, let's talk about it." And he goes, "Why do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, because I didn't go into the Navy and I've regretted not being able to serve my country." And he said, "You have no husband, no children, and find somebody to run the restaurant, close it down, sell it, get your ass over there."
Wow.
My uncle said, "Absolutely not. I will hog tie you. You will not go into war zone. What are you going to do if they capture you? What happens this? What about a chemical warfare?" And I was like, "Well, I feel like God's going to take care of me." He goes, "Oh, for the love," and he was just, "Your father spent 3 years and not in a war zone." And my uncle was deployment of long range missiles, air tactics, defense, and Desert Storm. And he had been to war and he knew in that region and he knew how bad it was. And he was just having no part of it. But I went anyway.
Did you? And how long were you over there?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And then from there?
Well, I had somebody run the restaurant and I came back from a war zone and I had PTS and I didn't know it. I didn't even actually admit to myself that I had PTS until years and years and years and years later. And I looked at my girlfriend who was my restaurant manager at the time. I said, "I think I had PTS." And she goes, "Really?" "Yes, You did. We all knew it. You didn't know that?
I knew that.
We knew it because I would scream at people over the smallest things, like,
Wow.
how come y'all didn't put that spoon right side up? I can't, everything was just a big deal. Um, and then, I got an opportunity to start writing for a newspaper about my time over there, and I wrote a column called Random Thoughts on Paper for the Montgomery County News. And I
Okay.
did that for a really long time. Then I started my own newspaper, and then I was political. One thing led to another. All of this still while, I had the restaurant. Um,
Sounds
and
like PTS to me. Yeah.
yeah, just doing just anything but trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. And so
And so, yeah, and so I was doing some political consulting because I really knew that we needed better people in office. I really got a kind of a bird's eye view on politics, and I didn't like it. And then I just realized it's really hard to make a difference in politics. And I couldn't sleep. I was called really bad names. People attacked my staff and all sorts of things. And I just said, I can't do this anymore. And I had a mentor. So I was lucky, like Andy. And I also had a mentor, Jay Minks. He's still my mentor. Bless his heart. Pray for him.
mm,
And he was asking me one day, he goes, okay, well, what part of your business do you want to focus on now? And I burst into tears and I just said, none of it. I don't want to do it anymore. I can't. It's a soul sucking endeavor. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to raise money for veterans, just the ugly cry. And he said, well, figure it out and get back to me.
yeah.
And I shadowed a lot of nonprofits, big ones that people would know. And I I felt a little kind of like I was back in politics, like they didn't align with my mission and my morals and my moral compass, and just couldn't see how any of that was working out. And leadership either wasn't good. I didn't know where the money was going. They weren't utilizing my talents where my talents should be used. I don't want to sell somebody's book, especially a book that I don't believe the story to. And, my gift is wrangling money out of people and giving them telling the passion and something I believed in. And I really shadowed nonprofits that I believed in. And I really was just going to go to work for another nonprofit. And I just got so aggravated one day. I looked at a girlfriend of mine. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own nonprofit.
Hmm.
And she said, how? And I said, I have no idea. But if they can do it, I can do it. And God
Okay.
helped. It was all God. God
Yes.
gave me the name Wheelchairs for Warriors.
Really.
100%.
Now, this is after you spent some time working in the State Department, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So my contract in Baghdad was acquired by the Department of State. So I worked directly for the Department of State. KBR, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if KBR still kept my contract and it was a deal that we made through them. Probably is how that went. But everything I did I did no work for KBR. All my work was for the State Department.
Okay. Okay. So you had this burden for veterans, and God developed that, brought it to the surface, and it became Wheelchairs for Warriors.
Yeah. I would go to all of these events, and a friend of mine was it's called an assistive technology professional. He was an ATP, and
Uh-huh.
he worked with workman's comp. So he worked with people, electrician gets electrocuted in a wheelchair. So he worked with all of that kind of stuff, not with veterans at all, but his father was a veteran in a wheelchair. So it was very,
Yeah.
near and dear to his heart. And he would always say to me, while I'm trying to figure out what I want my nonprofit to be, he would say to me and my girlfriends or whoever was around, he would say, oh my gosh, that guy lost his legs in Iraq and that's not the right wheelchair for him. Oh my God. And he was just like a little gnat. And I would go,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry about that. I know that I don't care, and I would just keep
Yeah.
saying, that's God bless you for caring so much. Can't do anything about it. And then one day God said, but you can do something about it. Wheelchairs for Warriors. You want a nonprofit. And I was like, oh, Wheelchairs for Warriors. And I called him and I said, I feel like this might be part of your fault. So you're going to have to help me. What do I do? And he goes, I don't know.
Wow. Wow. So you began your campaign, and the primary thing about your campaign is the fact that you do provide the right kind of wheelchairs for the right need of those who are in need of them, rather than just a standard wheelchair, right?
God bless him. That's correct.
So how did you build the financial base on which to buy? Because these are very expensive chairs.
Yeah.
Give the audience a feel for how expensive these chairs are.
Hey, listen. when I was in high school and college, none of my career counselors said to me, you know, Crystal, if you study hard, if you really, really try, if you put all your energy into it, if you lean in, you can become a professional beggar.
And that's what you became.
And I am a professional beggar. Um, I had I, I called my mentor Jay, and then I called my friend Lisa Halili, who owns Prestige Oyster, and I called another friend. I can't remember who the third person was, and they all donated money to get us started. And we went to SHOT Show. It was our first big thing that we went to, was SHOT Show in Vegas, and we started meeting people and trying to figure out how do you raise money. And I mean, it was 4.5, 5 years before I even took a paycheck that we were into this, and providing wheelchairs, and writing grants. And I had no idea how to do this. And
Yes.
um, also, I had people that kept me from going to prison. People would say, you can't be on the board and get a paycheck. And I'd go, well, well, I, okay, well, I'm not getting a paycheck anyway, but what do I do? Well, you will become the executive director. You need a board of directors, but you can't be on the board if you ever intend on taking a paycheck. And I said, why? And they said, it's not legal. I said, oh. And so, okay, so I'm going to write grants and I'll just take a percentage of all the money I raise. No, you can't do that either. That's illegal. You'll go to prison. This is not politics. It's the opposite of politics, because, when you're raising money for a political candidate, you take a percentage, you get a win bonus, you get all the things.
Right.
And that's how a lot of political consultants make their money. And it was opposite. I'm in the opposite world now.
Yes. I fully
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. So, but I'm in my 10th year, so I think I've got it figured out. So I immediately decided, and Jay helped me. We hired a consulting firm to keep track of our books and to make sure that I didn't go to prison.
Yes.
My board doesn't go to prison.
Yes. 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 Now, again, I asked you this question a while ago.
Oh, sorry.
Tell our audience what you're looking at in the way of the cost of these wheelchairs.
Right. So that was very surprising to me. The average cost of a wheelchair is $10,000.
That's just
All
a
in.
standard wheelchair.
Well,
right?
they're not standard. They're lightweight, titanium, and they're custom fit. So when you think about the cost of a wheelchair, the hardware might be $4,700. The hardware might be $12,385, right? And
Okay.
they're manual wheelchairs. And we build basketball wheelchairs, pickleball wheelchairs, baseball, tennis. We have 8 different sports that we've built a wheelchair around. And then we
Wow.
have daily living. But we have custom seats where if you've been injured in the line of duty and you have lost your limbs, or your spine is not aligned well and you sit like this, we'll design a seat that has flanges in it, kind of like a sleep number bed, and it'll set you straight. So now you're sitting straight, and you have
Wow.
also support in the back. We build different you get different kinds of tires, different kinds of frames, all sorts of different things. They measure you from elbow to wrist, from wrist to the tip of your middle finger. They measure you from your thigh to the bend in your knee. Everybody's wheelchair is different, and it is custom designed by a professional, either a custom rehab seating specialist or an ATP. And no
Bless
one
your heart.
wheelchair will fit anybody else.
Wow. What are we looking at in the way of numbers? How many vets are you now servicing with wheelchairs that come directly from your operation?
So as far as equipment,
Mhm.
wheelchairs, we've served over 300 recipients already. And last year we served 105, meaning we served 38 or 39 got wheelchairs and power assists. And then on top of that, we did service. And on top of that, we led other people in the path that they needed to go, because we don't work with quadriplegics. We don't
Okay.
build fancy wheelchairs, because we're not doctors, and I'm not,
Sure.
you need to you need to force the VA to handle this, or Medicare. You need a doctor.
Now,
I'm not going to prison over that either. And I don't want to hurt anybody.
you mentioned,
I don't want you to be worse off when after you
yeah.
left, when you showed up.
Now you mentioned grant money earlier.
Mhm.
Are you receiving grant money in
Yes.
support of this from the
Yes.
government, from government
Yes.
agencies?
No government agencies. We
Okay.
have one Texas, I don't really call it a government agency. It's the Texas Veterans Commission. And the Texas Veterans Commission gets their money through the state lottery.
Okay.
And so the state lottery gives money to education, to veterans, to different entities. And so veterans is one of those entities. And it was like 346 million last year that they dole out across the state of Texas. And every state that has a lottery also has a veterans program. So we
Okay.
do get money from the Texas Veterans Commission for the last 2 years, and we just applied for the third year of assistance. But there's grants. We get Walmart grants. We get
Really?
Jordan Spieth is he's a young man. He plays golf, and he gives out grant money to different organizations, and we get money from the Jordan Spieth Foundation. We get money from HEB. Love HEB.
Really?
HEB is a huge supporter of all sorts of things, and Johnny Mojica is over the veterans part of grants for HEB, and he has always been a big supporter of Wheelchairs for Warriors, and we get a grant from them. Different foundations, the Herstein Foundation. There's a ton of foundations. We randomly get checks in the mail. The most money we get are individuals. That's
Really?
where a lot of the money comes from. A lot of the times it's anonymous.
Wow. I noticed also on your board you have Dan Pastorini.
Yes.
That's a
Isn't that
well-known name here in Houston.
so it's just full circle. My mentor, Jay Minks, knows Dan really well. And Dan was at my 10-year anniversary for my restaurant. So when my restaurant turned 10, Dan was there. My dad got to meet Dan Pastorini. Oh, everybody. It was just so much fun. And then I called Dan and I said, would you be an honorary board member for us? And he said, sure. And he's just been a real blessing for us.
Really?
And people still just geek out over Dan Pastorini.
Now he has his own foundation
He
that
does.
he's really deeply committed to, from
He
what I
is very
read.
committed. Yep.
He helps
Be an
children.
Angel Foundation. It's the Be an Angel Foundation. And they
Okay.
help severely disabled children. And it is a wonderful foundation.
Wow. Wow. So how can people assist you financially in light of all the grants and everything that you're receiving? Do they just simply send you a check in the mail?
That's right. Just send me a
Really?
check. If you want to show up with a duffel bag full of cash, we can deposit that too. We know exactly what to do with it all. And
So
I do
you
want
are
and
a
I do want
501c3.
that's right. We are a 501c3, but wheelchairsforwarriors.org, you can call, you can mail a check, you can go through your donor advised funds like through Fidelity or Edward Jones. We get checks that way as well, Black Bod Foundation, just different ways like that.
Right.
And share the mission. If you work for a company that hosts a golf tournament and you want to maybe raise money for charity, a lot of associations raise money for charities and they choose a different charity every year, 2 years, 3 years. Some find a charity and stick with it forever. We
Right.
love that. We had Nucor Steel this year raise $50,000 for Wheelchairs for Warriors via a golf tournament in Bryan, Texas. I was
Really?
like, that's amazing.
Now your office is located where?
So I'm right now physically in Livingston, Texas.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm going to Sun State Foundation today to pick up a check for $10,000. And, we travel all over the country. We put the onus on us. So when the veteran applies for a wheelchair or the first responder, because we also serve first responders, when they apply for a wheelchair, we vet them. We have them fill out, sign their life away. We're going to use your
Right.
picture. We're going to use your story. We want to let the world know why we exist and also why they should support us so that we can help others like you.
Yes.
And we send our ATP to their home. And we try to do, if they have a really compelling story, we also do a big presentation for them to let them know that their community appreciates them as well, right? That they're
Yes.
not alone. That's a
Right.
big deal.
Right. So they can mail a check
Mhm.
to your offices in Livingston, you said, right?
Yeah, we have PO Box 911 or we have everything is on the website.
On the website. Okay. Crystal, it's been a lot of fun just getting to know you and seeing how busy you are. I think that we're the honored ones that you took the time to spend some time with us, given the fact how fast you're moving around. Andy, did you have anything that you wanted to ask her at this point? You look like you're on pins and needles.
Yeah, at one point, we've had Machine Gun Preacher on, and they feed 10,000 orphans a day. At some point, they have to tell people no. They don't get fed that day, and usually they feed one meal to keep the person alive. So Crystal has to deal with the same thing. It's there's more need out there, right?
Right.
than is available. So the mission is big, and thank you. And of course, as vets, you're drinking your coffee with the Eagle Globe and Anchor. I had an opportunity to meet a gentleman that was killed in Beirut in 1983. His gravesite in Arlington was amazing. So Eagle Globe and Anchor means a lot to veterans that again don't get to have a wheelchair because they gave their life, right? So you taking on this mission, it is a God-given mission, very
100%.
powerful. And I've seen your commitment, your emotion. I mean, these are people that you build as you're building you're putting them back in the game. You're putting them back into the fight for their family, their community, so to speak, equipping these warriors. A lot of them, they don't think they deserve it. But can you just speak just briefly on that? I mean, you get to know these people really well.
Right. It is infuriating when we hear some of these stories about these veterans and first responders who can't get served by the VA. And I heard somebody say the other day, when their country needed them, they went. When they need their country, then what? And one of our mottos is no man left behind at home. Because what are we going to do? We're going to drag their broken, beat up bodies, their minds, all the things. Their hearts, we're going to drag all that brokenness off the field, off the battlefield. We're going to save them. And then we're going to do what with them? Just throw them in their home with not the proper equipment? And we will serve them with a daily living wheelchair, a basketball wheelchair. I mean, we're not just here for one and done and we're gone. And when these men, isolation leads to depression, and depression often leads to suicide. And if we're on this earth, and if our feet are touching this ground, it is our God-given duty to serve humanity. That is love. That is what we are here to do, is to love one another.
Amen.
And that is what we are doing at Wheelchairs for Warriors. We are loving them. We are enveloping them, and we are telling them, it's for you. We're doing this for you. Nobody deserves it more than you do, because if you've served in the military, you're an alpha female or you're an alpha male. And they're taught to make do. They don't have the best equipment. I mean, if you're in the Air Force and you're flying fighter jets, you might have the best equipment, but the Marines don't have the best equipment. The Army guys, they don't have the best. Everybody doesn't have the best, right? And so they're taught that duct tape is a good thing. We need some duct tape, we need some super glue, and we need, we have rolled up on a situation and on a scene where they have duct taped their wheelchair together because they can't get the VA to come out and service their wheelchair. Now,
Wow.
if it's a Marine, it's probably his fault, because he has been doing wheelies and he has been rolling through the creeks in his wheelchair. And, you just can't slow him down. Special
got that,
ops
Marine.
guys.
You got Andy the Marine chuckling over there on that one.
Yeah. We look at them and they go, they'll say, we don't want the anti-tippers. And we're like, oh no, we're putting the anti-tippers on your wheelchair. And if you would like to take them off after we leave where we can't see it, that's on you.
We're going to wrap this up now. We're just about out of time. God bless you, girl. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We've enjoyed having you here, and we'll see if we can come back and give you an opportunity to give a bigger message to the audience, and hopefully to your audience when they tune in again. But Andy, take this. Thank you, sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been watching Coffee with Wally, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine. Roll strong.
The Mystery, Heaven's Secret Story by Wally Wood. Before time, before creation, there was a mystery. What really happened before Genesis chapter 1? Scripture hints at a story rarely taught, yet essential to understanding everything. Respected journalist and author Wally Wood uncovers heaven's secret story, revealing who we are, why we're here, and what was set in motion before the beginning. This is not speculation. This is revelation. Discover the mystery, Heaven's Secret Story. Available now. The truth awaits. Visit themystery.now.site.
Order your copy today, available on Amazon.